There is a mental health crisis, and the left is only escalating it. Yeah. They are increasing this mental health crisis rather than addressing it. Gender dysphoria used to be something that you went and got help for,
right.
And now it's encouraged and it's pushed on our youth. You know what an adult chooses to do it. But when you are confusing our children, when you are sexualizing our children, that is where the line has to be drawn.
I'm Dave Rubin. We are in Washington, D.C., and joining me today is a U.S. Congresswoman representing Colorado's 3rd District, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Welcome back to the Rubin Report.
Dave, it is so great to be back in the Rubin Report with you.
We were supposed to do this yesterday, but
yes.
Apparently even a Congresswoman doesn't have the power to stop our endless aviation problems that we're having in America these days.
No, you know, Republicans are in the majority, so we have a little more power, but I'm not as powerful as Tony Gonzalez. Who can shut down entire border security bills just with the power of his words. No, I was stuck on in airports all day long. I mean, if you're just going to count Eastern time, 8 a.m. to midnight. And I had 2 of my boys with me, which some people would think that causes for more stress, more of a headache, but it was awesome. I had my 15-year-old and my 10-year-old, and we walked the airports together. We snuggled on airplanes. We went and ate good food in the airport. They wanted McDonald's. I vetoed that. And so, listen, you get McDonald's anytime you want. But, you know, it was really great just spending the day with them and a unique experience. Got home. You know, we got home at 12:30. I put my 10-year-old in the shower. I said, I have been with you all day. You smell. I made you shower before we got on the airplane, and I don't think you use soap. So we still didn't get to bed till after 1 a.m. And, you know.
Do you ever want to do that with some of the Democrats you're debating?
Yes.
You smell.
Yes.
You in the shower.
I don't think you use soap. Yeah. The mom instincts come out in me.
You know, individual responsibility is usually not their thing.
Right.
Do your kids and family come to D.C. often, or is this just like you doing your thing here, in and out?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much on my own for the most part, but when their schedule allows it, they certainly come up here. We've pulled them out of school to have weeks up here before because I had been traveling so much and just missed the heck out of them and said, why don't you come out here? And they act like they own DC when they come here. They go throughout the Capitol, the office buildings. They know which members of Congress have dogs in their office, and you know they go and storm their offices and hang out. But this is spring break. So I have 2 boys with me. My oldest son is expecting his son any day.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so he couldn't come to DC. I know.
You're gonna be, wait, how old are you?
I'm 36.
You're gonna be a 36-year-old grandma.
Yes. I'm a GG, Dave. Yeah. I'm a GG.
How does that feel?
You know, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So my mom, she was 18 when she had me. I was 18 when I had Tyler, and now he's 18. And one of his first comments to me was, Mom, it's hereditary.
Yeah.
I said, nice try. It doesn't work that way. But I'm really proud of him and my grandson's mom for being responsible, because they could have taken a different route.
Yeah.
And both of them chose life. And so it wasn't, you know, anything I had to browbeat them with. I, you know, very calmly had the conversation when we found out. Just let me know if you think something else. I just want to have a talk with you if you decide to go a different direction. And both of them were very excited and wanted to move forward and welcome this life into the world.
Was there any part of that challenged any of your beliefs before you did that sit down with them and just realizing, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I'm a Christian, and, you know, there are standards that we like to uphold, but none of us do it perfectly. You know, one of the biggest things that I look to is him who knows to do right and doesn't, it's sin. And I mean, there's things all throughout the week that I know is right to do, and sometimes, you know, I don't do them. And, you know, so we can nitpick what the Bible says is right and wrong, but I think just having that heart posture of wanting to serve God and do the right thing is so important. And I mean, would I chose a different path? Of course, you know, but this is where we're at, and we're all embracing it, and we're so happy.
Wait, what do you mean you would have chose a different path?
For Tyler, for my son. Yes. So I mean,
meaning at this age.
At this age, exactly. Yeah, he wanted to go to UTI in Florida. He was going to graduate and go to college in Florida, and now he's looking at petroleum engineering classes, courses at our community college. It's a great community college in Rifle, but I get to have him home with me longer, and I get to be Gigi. So certainly there are some beliefs that like, wait, this isn't exactly right and exactly what we have taught you, but this is where we're at, and we're going to teach you about redemption and how to move forward. So I'm happy that he's close to me, and I get to instruct him now on how to be a loving father and how to raise a baby. So.
Let's do a couple things about Colorado specifically, and then we'll get to the rest of the country. When I did my book tour back in May, I did Denver. I'd stop in Denver, and I was shocked at the amount of homeless people there. Like, you expected in Seattle, you expected in San Francisco and Portland, et cetera. But I was shocked by what was going on in Denver, which is such a gorgeous city, and the people are great and all that. So what is going on in Denver?
Democrats. So, I mean, really, that's what happened. We had universal mail-in ballots about 10 years ago go through, and Democrats started taking over every single election. And unfortunately, it was when we had our gubernatorial race that elected Governor Jared Polis. And after that is when we just saw this dramatic decline in Colorado. Our policies infringing on Coloradans' rights. And then just the crime increase. Marijuana, it's legal in Colorado, obviously. And I think that did bring in a different...
So you connect that directly? Because as a general rule, I'm more libertarian, and I do believe in legalizing this stuff, and I'm not against people doing what they want with their lives. But even seeing in New York what's going on right now, the whole city just smells like weed, basically.
Yes. You can't go outside in Denver and not smell weed. And it's pretty much throughout most of the state, especially in those urban areas. But I think it just brought with it, that legalization brought with it a different population and certainly a transient population. And the homelessness has just skyrocketed in Denver when we were having all the COVID lockdowns and everything. I mean, we just had an complete encampment right there at the Denver Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, like literal tent cities everywhere. I was shocked.
Yes, and they are everywhere, and they're not doing anything to remove them. So they're enabling the problem, and it is only increasing.
What do you think of, well, I guess I know what you think, but so Polis, it seems to me that people say, when I'm always like, oh, there's no moderate Democrat, people are like, well, Polis is he's not completely insane. But it doesn't sound like the policies are that far from what we think.
No, the policies are very extreme. And I do like Governor Jared Polis on a personal level. I mean, we've had some interactions, and he's been very kind to me. But his policies do not match that moderate or libertarian mantra that people have about him. Even hearing stories of him serving in the House of Representatives is very different than what I'm seeing as him being our governor. And maybe it's his cabinet members who are pushing these extreme policies, and he's kind of going along with it. There is a supermajority. The Democrats have a supermajority in Colorado, and the state legislature pushes extreme policies. And unfortunately, those get signed into law, whether that's gun control laws or comprehensive sex ed or vaccine mandates for our children in order to go to school. And so all of this is so extreme, and from the top down, it affects everyone, everywhere. The lockdowns affected our businesses. So many were shut down. Our churches were shut down. Our schools were shut down. People were masked up and just lost so much. We didn't have a statewide vaccine mandate for the COVID vaccine. And maybe that's why people look and say, oh, look, he wasn't that bad.
Right.
But I, in that circumstance, I kind of see it like as an abused spouse. Like, oh, he doesn't beat me all the time. Right. We have good days.
Right, because I'm telling you, I mean, his name is on that very short list of like not insane Democrats, and I would love to interview him and discuss some of this stuff. So we shall see.
I think you should interview him. And like I said, like he and I have had great conversations together. I've brought him to, he came into my Washington, D.C. office, and we talked about water. And it was a very productive conversation that we had about water. Colorado doesn't have a lack of that resource.
Right.
We have an over-allocation problem. And so he and I are trying to work together to see how we can store more of that water. It's a low-hanging fruit. And you just came from California. Well, California takes a lot of our water, and it's really frustrating when you see hundreds of billions of gallons of water being dumped into the ocean rather than stored in California after we sent that precious resource downriver.
Do you sense that Colorado is going to just sort of have what now, although Colorado I think is somewhat purple, it's going to have what the blue states have, which is that the big cities, so mostly Denver, will just go increasingly blue, and the rural areas will just go increasingly red, and then we'll just have that nonstop tension?
Yes, so I do see increasingly blue, but our red areas, I do think that those are turning more purple. I mean, look at my race. I won by 546 votes. Our oil and gas industry is gone. We've been regulated into poverty in our communities. The Colorado's 3rd district no longer has that industry like we did, and those companies have left. They've taken with them their employees and their families, and it has impacted us dramatically. And I have all of the tourist towns, most of the tourist towns in my district. I have Telluride, I have Aspen, I have Glenwood Springs. We just had redistricting, but I used to have Steamboat Springs, and we have Uray. But Californians are moving into those areas, and they're able to afford it. The taxes are cheaper in Colorado than they were in California. So they're like, this is great. But they're taking their policies from California and bringing them to Colorado.
Yeah. So are you seeing that for sure? Because it's really interesting. What I've noticed is the people that are coming to Florida, and where I live in the suburbs of Miami, like it's all new people, but they get it. They really do get it. Everyone, like you can feel it. Like, no, I'm here to keep Florida free.
Yes.
I wear my Florida hat so all the OGs know that I'm cool.
Yes.
Like, but do you sense that it's a different type really that's coming to Colorado? That does kind of make sense in a way.
Yes, people are not coming to Colorado for freedom. They're coming to Colorado for a lifestyle that they're accustomed to, and even policies that they have voted for in the past, but they don't recognize that they failed them, and that's why they're leaving. Yeah. So they think, oh, if we try a new form of socialism, right? This type hasn't been tried yet, so we'll try it over here in this state.
Socialism with snow,
right?
Or something like that.
Yes, socialism with snow.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it's not the same as Florida. Florida's doing amazing, and I mean, I'm envious of how great Florida is doing. You have America's governor, and we are just getting more and more blue, more and more liberal in these extreme policies, red flag laws. We were at the top of the list to get red flag laws, and now our state legislature is wanting to increase those. They're wanting to ban any kind of firearm with a detachable magazine. I mean, first we started off with high capacity magazine bans in 2013, and now we want to ban all firearms that have a detachable magazine. It's just as extreme as you can imagine. And I'm doing everything that I can to bring awareness to it, show people, hey, your votes matter. We have the government that we deserve. We have to be engaged. We have to be involved. And then certainly help to strengthen Colorado's 3rd district so we're not 546 votes away from an election.
Right, I was going to say, Colorado, was it 546 votes?
Yes,
How long did it
recount.
take? It was like a full,
oh,
was it
gosh.
like 2 weeks?
No, it was longer than that.
Yeah.
It was in December when we had the final count. I was the last Republicans race to be called. So we had won. It was an automatic recount, and so we had to go and cure ballots. And so if a ballot was rejected because of their signature, we were able to contact that voter and get it corrected. We cured about 700 ballots and then won by 546. So that entire effort to cure those ballots, every single one of them mattered.
Man, those go the wrong way. You could have ended up in Florida.
Could have. Yes.
All right, on a less humorous note for a moment, so we're taping this on Tuesday. Obviously, there was this shooting in Tennessee yesterday. We're going to post this on Thursday, so some of this may move a little bit, some of the information we find. The basics of what I could see was the way, it's just how everything is framed in this crazy media lens. Like now it sounds like this was a biological girl, who I guess identified as a male or at least used male pronouns. this is going to cause the anti-gun people to go for the guns. It's going to cause the people who are pissed about the woke stuff to go after the trans people. Like, is there any way to have a conversation about this in a sane way at this point?
Can we just put personal responsibility on people and say this was a terrible person who did a terrible thing? I do think that we have a mental crisis here, in a mental health crisis in the United States that's being that's growing and really being encouraged. But I don't want to go after an entire group of people for something that one person did, just like the left goes after, all gun owners when something like this happens. Look, I'm from Colorado. We're at the epicenter of, these school shootings, and it's absolutely terrible. But you don't disarm law-abiding citizens because of one nut job who did a horrible, heinous act. And so also looking at Nashville, who stopped this crazed shooter? A good guy with a gun. Yeah. And so, this has to be something that we focus on. I was actually just in a committee hearing, and let me say, I was in the airport yesterday, when this broke, and my boys and I prayed together. Just the families and everyone affected. And, I know the left goes after that. Oh, we don't want your thoughts and prayers and this and that. But I believe in prayer, and that works. And I know the power of the wraparound presence of the Holy Spirit and how he can just comfort and heal broken hearts. And so, that's something that we did together when we heard about this. And but there's so much. I was in the committee hearing on the ATF rule with the pistol brace, and I actually got completely sidetracked because I wanted to say something that I had said in years past and used to believe. I wanted to start off and say, we don't differ in our hearts, we differ in data. Mm-hmm. But I stopped myself and he said, no, we do differ in our hearts, because I don't want any child killed. And they're talking about this as the leading cause of death for our youth is gun violence. He said, no, not even close. Actually, it's abortion. We're aborting nearly
that's
one.
That's the new meme that they're using constantly now.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Well, that is gun violence.
Oh, yes. But yeah, we're up to, nearly 1 million a year, and that's never discussed. And so we do differ in our hearts, because every life is valuable. This is why I'm so proud of my son and his girlfriend for choosing life. Even in, if you look at rural and urban areas, the teen pregnancy rate isn't much different, but the teen abortion rate is much higher in urban areas than it is in rural areas, because we value life. We care about that and do have personal responsibility. So we want to look at data and see what we can do to protect life. And I want to arm teachers. I want to have secure schools. There was an idea I proposed in the last Congress to take some of the unspent COVID money and secure schools. Protect our children. We protect Congress with fences and miles of razor wire and tens of thousands of armed National Guards, because walls work and armed security works. We secure our airports. We secure our banks. Why not our most precious asset, our children?
Let me ask you about the arming teachers thing, because there's part of me that's not inherently against it. But then when you see how many teachers are actually left-wing activists.
Yes.
How many teachers are actually teaching this woke craziness? How many teachers are clearly not good at their job or actually quite negligent in their responsibilities? What do you do about that? Because it's not as if you're just going to handguns people, train them, and they're going to be ideologically lined up with you in a way that's going to make any sort of sense.
Correct. Well, I don't think most of those woke teachers are going to be volunteering to be armed. There's certainly circumstances that are always beyond my imagination. But in Colorado, we actually have a law that allows teachers to be armed. It's up to the school board. If the school board says teachers can be certified, then they go through the certification. And we have an organization, Faster Colorado, that trains teachers. And it's a very extensive tactical training course that they're taught how to be responsible with this firearm. Most have had experience. You have retired military personnel, retired law enforcement, and I think that having some presence there, able to defend the students, is a really good thing. It doesn't have to be every teacher. It doesn't have to be the majority of teachers. But even knowing that there is someone there to stop an imminent threat, I think that is a large enough deterrent, because even we're hearing reports, I don't know how true they are, but we're hearing reports that the shooter in Nashville, whom I won't name, nor give pronouns, said this was a soft target. Like this person knew that this school was not going to be able to stop the shooting.
So at what point, though, I know you don't want to blame groups, and I think that's important. I literally didn't tweet about it yesterday because I was just like, I just don't want to add in the midst of the craziness. Everyone gets in on it for clicks and all that stuff. But at what point do you think the Democrat rhetoric, and this is what they do to you guys all the time, the Republicans are always defending guns and it's their fault, so I don't want to do that same thing. But at what point, when you constantly tell this group of people that they're oppressed, that there's a trans genocide, that, all of this stuff that is just patently untrue. At what point do you have to look at your colleagues and be like, do you see there is a problem here? You actually are radicalizing a certain set of people.
Right. No, I do think that that's true, and that is something that we need to speak of. Just this one particular instance, I don't want to blame all of the people, but yes, there is a mental health crisis, and the left is only escalating it. Yeah. They are increasing this mental health crisis rather than addressing it. Gender dysphoria used to be something that you went and got help for, and now it's encouraged, and it's pushed on our youth. What an adult chooses to do it. But when you are confusing our children, when you are sexualizing our children, that is where the line has to be drawn. When you are telling elementary students, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, you could be a boy, you could be a girl. Well, they could be a mermaid. I wanted to be a mermaid when I was 4. I lived in the pool and,
Decepticon.
Right, Decepticon. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a problem, and it is radicalizing a group. We even saw, or I saw a CNN article that says, if you've ever tweeted a meme of a black woman, well, then that's digital blackface. This is the new oppress me of the day. Oppress me, please. And when you're telling someone you're not good enough, you are oppressed, you are the lesser person, you are the lesser class. Well, then that's going to get inside of them and cause depression and more mental health crises. So it is something that I believe that the left is radicalizing and encouraging.
So what do you do to reach across the aisle on this? Because I'm doing about 10 or 12 interviews, all with Republicans when I'm here. We reached out to Democrats, not one responded. And I spoke to Senator Ron Johnson yesterday. He basically said, well, none of the Democrats will talk to me. I spoke to Crenshaw, and he said, well, kind of on the DL they'll talk to him, and some of them aren't that crazy. Gates gave me a similar version to that. Who are the not crazy ones? Do they talk to you? And is there anything that can be done with them? I mean, if I'm too scary of an interview for them, it's like, I'm not known for the hardball interview. I try to listen to people.
Yes, you do. And
but they won't sit here. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the problem, because the Democrat Party has their marching orders. We saw it during the speaker's race. Everyone's yelling at the Republicans saying, you have to get unified. This looks crazy. Well, we have independent thought. The Democrats were told what to do, and they did exactly what they were told to do.
Right, even the radicals like AOC.
Even the radicals, absolutely. And even the Congress before that, they had, they were forming a coup to take down Nancy Pelosi, and they took the deal. They said, you know what, my committee assignment's good enough, thank you, ma'am, and walked on. And so in so much of this, they don't want to engage. We see it in debate. They want to say their side and leave. They don't want to hear the opposing views. A lot of times, if I'm debating on the House floor, I'll go early. I'll hear what the Democrats have to say, my colleagues have to say. I'll stay later. Sometimes I even ask somebody for their time so I could go up and respond.
Right. But does anyone else do that? I feel like nobody listens to the talks. Like someone gets up there talk and they're like, nobody's there, but it's on C-SPAN or we see the clips.
It is very rare because you do have your scheduled times, and our days are really busy here. So I understand it. But usually you go in for your 2 minutes. That's what you have to speak. Maybe it's 5 minutes, and then you get out and you're on to the next meeting. And it's almost feels like it's by design to keep us so busy that we can't engage with our colleagues. And back to the speaker's race, that was one of my favorite parts about it. Those 4 days, we were all together on the House floor debating, engaging in conversations with our colleagues. I talked to Republicans I had never spoke to before. I talked to Democrats I had never spoke to before. And it was a wonderful 4 days of actually getting to know and understand one another.
Were you worried that, you were at, ultimately you guys got some concessions, but were you worried as one of the most outspoken people sort of against McCarthy that you were going to pay a price? Just personally, even if you
absolutely. But that wasn't going to be what determined what I was doing. I couldn't say, I'm never going to be reelected again. If that's my only thought is my next election, then I have no business being here. I need to do what I believe is right. That's what I was sent here to do. I convinced and promised hundreds of thousands of people that I'm a leader, that I'm strong, I'm principled, I'm going to stand for them and fight for them. And so I wasn't going to sit back and go along to get along and say, my committee assignment, I don't want a primary, I don't want leadership spending money against me in a race, or any kind of repercussions, whatever you could think of. I knew to do what was right, and this was all about these negotiations that we had started in the summer and in good faith. And I'm glad that Speaker McCarthy saw the merit in what we were asking for and gave them to us. I want to use more of the tools that we've received. And some of them, it's just not time for them yet, like the Holman rule, that'll come up more in appropriations. But I don't want to only admire what we've received. I want to put these tools to work.
I'm interviewing him later today at the Capitol. Is there anything I can push him on for you? Anything you need a little nudge on?
I actually think...
Because I like the fact that he seems like he's coming alive with this stuff.
He does.
It really does seem like it's happening.
He really does.
Yeah.
I think Speaker McCarthy's doing a really great job, and I'm not just saying that. He is very aggressive on this. Even the January 6th videos that he released, that wasn't part of the concessions. That was a bonus.
Right.
And so this is amazing. If there's anything that I want to be more aggressive on, it's subpoenas. We had, and this isn't anything against Chairman Comer or Pat Fallon, who's the subcommittee chair, and the subcommittee, we had the ATF hearing. But we had an ATF hearing without the ATF. I want the ATF in, and they are coming in April, but I want to start issuing these subpoenas and being very aggressive with it. The Democrats are.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because you were part of the Twitter hearings, and there was a great viral moment where you basically were like, you guys did this to me. You did it to me, and I'm a congresswoman.
Yes.
And this is what I've asked everyone else who has sat here over the last couple of days. What actually comes of this stuff, other than, okay, we can expose some of it? So you bring out a Twitter executive, he kind of did some bad stuff, sort of, sometimes did some decent stuff. But what about the government side of it? Like, when are we going to drag, or when are you guys going to drag out the government agents who actually were communicating with them, as opposed to the Twitter guys who, it's not that I have sympathy for them, but they're private employees who were probably in over their head and whatever.
Yes. Yeah. And so we did have former FBI agent Baker that was in there, but he was working for Twitter. Yeah. Correct. We do need to bring in these people, but we called those hearings Twitter file hearings part 1. Yeah. So we are going to have more, but unfortunately, Dave, I do think that these next 2 years are 2 years of exposure. And I want to expose the federal employees who are involved in this more than anything. And then hopefully the inspectors generals look at this, and there's some sort of referral that we can actually get criminal referrals for some of the things that have been done. But I don't know if we can do that in this administration.
Right. So basically you need a Republican administration to actually do anything. So the hope is you can get people to know enough about it.
Right. Well, all the top guys are Biden's guys right now. So that is our biggest struggle. So we have to build this case. We have to expose what's been hidden from the American people. For years, there has been no oversight in the House of Representatives, and there still isn't much oversight in the Senate. The Democrats have the gavel there, and they aren't going to bring in serious people to have this oversight. So it's our job to carry the weight of the House and the Senate and make up for those years where there was no oversight conducted.
Not to beat a dead horse, but were there any Democrats in that hearing that were like, oh, actually, even though I'm a Democrat and they were mostly going after conservatives, this is a violation of the First Amendment? Maybe even on the DL, did anyone say anything?
If there were, I didn't hear of it. Yeah. And so everything was extreme MAGA Republicans. Yeah. And, I did set the record straight and said, listen, we are not extreme MAGA Republicans. It is ultra MAGA. But we were exposing how, the federal government worked with Twitter to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. They didn't want to touch that. Everything is January 6th, and they're using what they know works because it did work for them in the last election. But now we're exposing what happened during January 6th, what happened with the censorship, what happened with the lockdowns, the fraud, the waste, abuse with the COVID funds, and Afghanistan. Other committees are having hearings on that. We had a soldier that had the bomber, the suicide bomber, in his sights. And he was not allowed to neutralize that threat in his sights. And now we have 13 of our soldiers killed. I mean, absolutely disgusting. But we are exposing what was going on, and the American people are going to see it. And I hope in the next 2 to 4 years, we have actual accountability. I don't want any show pony hearings like Benghazi. I want people to be held accountable, and so do the American people.
Do you think it's kind of funny when Biden keeps saying, the extreme MAGA Republicans or ultra MAGA or whatever? Like, he's sort of talking about your wing of the thing as if you guys are completely running the show. And the whole point is that you guys were on the outside and had to fight for a lot of that. But he's basically trying to paint everybody as if you and Matt and Gates and a couple other people are in charge.
If they want us to run the show, let's run it, because we have some really great ideas. Right. Look at even the debt ceiling proposal. It was the House Freedom Caucus that came out and said, we have a plan. We aren't going to default on our nation's debt, but we're going to claw back some of this stuff, some of the unspent COVID funding, the student loan program. We're taking that back. If you want to just do pennies on the dollar, we're not building your $500 million FBI building that you need, that your brand new building. And so there's
one of the things they're going for. The FBI needs a $500 million building.
Yeah. Really important. So there are things that we
really
can absolutely.
After the last couple of
years,
they've
worked so hard. It was really the raid. They're like, hey, we need a bonus. After this Mar-a-Lago raid. We have a plan. Joe Biden's plan. It increases taxes on everyone. They are doing nothing to reduce inflation, to increase energy development. Everything that they're doing will increase inflation and reduce energy. We have 20 million Americans that can't afford their utility bills right now. We have a wide open southern border. We want it secure. We want the flow of fentanyl to stop. And so we have a plan. And I told Joe Biden in our press conference, I said, we're meeting tonight on the Hill. You want to come here? Put down your ice cream. Join us. We'll have a conversation. And
it's funny. The guy keeps coming downstairs and says, the only reason I'm down here for ice cream, and I'm starting to believe it. That's the only reason he's coming downstairs. Like, I like ice cream.
Yes.
And everybody's like, oh, there's the old man who likes ice cream.
Exactly. Well, we hear about the horrible tragedy in Nashville, and he says, I hear there's chocolate chip cookies.
He literally did like a 5-minute stand-up routine about ice cream when he came down. It was nuts. All right, let me ask you one more. I know you hit the gym before you got here. You got a long day of stuff. You got to get out of here. One more for you. So you talked about what's going to happen in 2 years, hopefully. Obviously, this thing seems to be like going back and forth between the Trump-DeSantis thing. I know you love Trump. You obviously said some nice things about DeSantis here. I think you have a sense of where I'm at on this thing. What's your general take? And actually, do you think there is a way, which would be my preference, that it doesn't have to end up in destruction of one or both? That would be the best way, but
Correct.
I just don't know if it's possible.
Correct. I at this point, I don't know if it's possible either. I think there's room in this tent for both President Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis. I would love for this to not end ugly. I have endorsed President Trump. I do endorse President Trump. I believe that he will be our nominee. Obviously, Governor DeSantis has not announced that he's running at this time. But I mean, even the way the left is still going after President Trump with the DA in New York, they do not want him to run because they know that he will win. And I mean, think about it. They're not going after Nikki Haley. She's a member of the club. She's paid her dues. They're not worried about her. But they are going after President Trump still. They have not left this man or his family alone at all. And, I think Governor DeSantis has great potential to be president of the United States. I just want him to wait till 2028.
Any final thoughts, or should we end on that? That seemed pretty clear.
I love President Trump, and Governor DeSantis, you just keep Florida strong for a while.
Well, the funny thing is, for me, I'm like, look, if Trump ends up the president and DeSantis stays governor, like, I'll be freaking thrilled. I'll be thrilled if DeSantis is the president. It's like, that's why I just don't want the mutually assured destruction.
Right.
That seems like it's on the way.
Yes.
So we shall see.
We shall see.
Good luck for the rest of the day. I'll try to nudge McCarthy for you.
Thanks. Yes, let's get some subpoenas. We've issued tens so far. Let's make it hundreds. Thanks, Dave.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of mindless drivel, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.